Hey everyone, and welcome to Skillcapped. I'm the King Live, and if you've been getting upset because you've gotten Breeze for the 6th time in a row and don't know how to play on the map, then I am your man. Today I'm going to be breaking down exactly how you should be looking to play on Breeze in your competitive matches to give you the best edge in your games. The map is huge and at times can be incredibly daunting, but using these tips I guarantee you'll be able to bring your Breeze game to the next level. If that sounds good to you, then stick with us as we get into it. But before we do, let's introduce our question of the day, which is, which agent do you think would make the best lifeguard in Valorant? If you had to trust one agent to save you from drowning, who would it be? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, but let's get into it, starting out with our attacker side on Breeze. Breeze is huge. I'm sure this is something that all of us noticed right away. And because of this, if you choose to spread out your team too much, it can definitely result in your team just getting picked off individually throughout the round. However, if you play too closely together, you're sacrificing a ton of map control and giving the defenders the chance to swarm you, which is also bad. This is why having a flank guard on attack can be so important. You don't need to dedicate your entire team towards taking map control everywhere at once. Instead, what you want to do is focus the majority of your forces on taking map control in a few areas around each other, and then after establishing that pressure, determine what you want to do. For example, a really good location that you can take control of on attack is Elbow towards B site or Halls towards A site. Both of these locations allow not only quick access towards each site, but they also provide a second, or in A site's case, a third entry point that your team could potentially use when they decide to execute. Not only that, but when you have control of a location like Halls, you can establish that pressure towards A, and then have an access to the shoot, where you can either have a quick rotation towards B site, or towards double doors if you need it. Breeze is a really massive map, with tons of locations that you can pressure to give you an advantage. Don't make the mistake of only attacking for one location, especially if you're choosing to attack B site. I highlight how important it is to attack from multiple positions on Breeze, but realistically it's really important on every map. Rarely as a team are you going to want to execute from the same location every time, because you can easily be dealt with utility. Trying to force 5 players out of the same choke point on B main is practically suicide if the enemy has any utility set up to deal with it, and this is why it's really important to establish that pressure first in Elbow, and then start your execute from the 2 locations at once where you can overwhelm them. More importantly, your overall tactic on offense should be to get the defenders as spread out as possible so that you can take advantage of how big the map is. Remember, a trade almost always favors the attackers, because with every player lost on defense, it becomes more and more difficult to cover all of the locations on the map. If you're able to split off the defenders by creating pressure everywhere else and pulling rotates, only to turn around and hit the weaker side of the map, you're going to put your team in a fantastic position. This map is massive. Don't make the mistake of spreading out your offense too much. Use the buddy system, land those trades, and gather that information, and I guarantee you'll have a lot better of a time attacking on Breeze than you did before. And before we move on to defending on Breeze, if you haven't already, I highly recommend that you head on over to skillcapped.com and check out our hyper improvement system. We have up-to-date lineups, courses on how to improve with each agent, Smurf commentaries where a higher rank player walks you through how to carry in your rank, and so much more. Come join over 500,000 satisfied members, improve that KDA, and get the rank that you've always wanted at skillcapped.com. Link in the description below. Moving on to the defensive side of Breeze though, and this is where you're really going to have to play for info a bit more. Remember what we said for attackers, a trade is almost always going to favor them, especially on a map this big. This means that if you risk your life too much trying to defend against hard pushes alone, you're going to find that you're putting your team in a very bad position if you don't come out with at least 2 kills. This is why guns like the Operator are so strong on this map. You can hold really far away angles that are just hard to punish, where you can take that quick shot and then just back up. This will help your team gather info by holding these areas, but also leave you a bit safer because you won't be exposed to getting traded. Now this doesn't mean everyone in your team should be running an Operator, but having an op user holding down long angles such as mid, A, or B site can be a massive way to give your team an edge on a map that is so incredibly difficult to defend on. On this same note, if it wasn't clear by what I was just saying, you don't want to put yourself in a position on site where your teammates won't be able to help you if they push. For example, this trench on B site can be awesome if you have teammates prepared to help you. However, if you're alone playing in a position like this, you're really setting yourself up for a final stand. You could come up really big in a position like this, but alternatively, you could just get Omen flashed and killed. And this is why if you're playing a solo position on B site, it's probably better for you to play a position like Wall, where you can fall back towards CT if you need to. Similarly, on A side, if you're playing around the pyramids, you're basically guaranteeing that you will not be able to fall back if you need to. And this is okay if you have teammates there assisting you for this hold. However, if you do not have any bodies towards A, I recommend playing further back so that you can wait for reinforcements before engaging your enemy. Similar to Icebox, Breeze is a post-plant map, meaning that you're not supposed to be able to hold down the sites as easily. The map is huge, and because of that, your resources are going to be more spread out, and you need to pick the right time and place to fight the enemies. And likely that's not going to be when they first engage onto you with all of their utility when you're alone. Lastly, on defense, you should really remember to take advantage of how big the map is. If you can find any openings to catch the attackers off guard with a flank, whether you're long flanking from one of the sites or flanking through one of the many entrances in mid, it's going to be very difficult for the attackers to watch everything. The more map control that you have, the more information you have to make decisions off of. If I scout out that nobody is an elbow on B, that means that they are likely going to be executing A, and we can rotate more players to help. Keep this in mind when you're playing on Breeze. Info is king. Try to your best to keep up with what the offense is doing, and you'll be Gucci. Lastly, moving on to what agents you should or shouldn't be playing on Breeze right now. If you haven't already seen our Breeze meta video, I highly recommend that you check it out, where we'll break down exactly why each agent performs the way that they do. But TLDR for you is this. For controllers, Astra and Viper are incredibly strong, and many team comps will be running both of them. Omen isn't terrible on Breeze, but because of how big the map is, he loses a little bit of steam to Astra. His ult is great for rotates, but his blind loses power because of how open everything is. Brimstone still doesn't see any love. For Duelist, Yoru is great because of how quickly he can rotate, and Jen and Reyna are still awesome. But remember, when playing Reyna, there's still a range to her blind, so if you're expecting to blind an operator who's a mile away, good luck. For initiators, all of them are pretty great. Breach loses a little bit of steam because of how open the map is, but he's definitely not terrible. You'll probably just prefer to play Skye for the info. Lastly, for Sentinels, Sage is still seeing a little bit of play surprisingly, and Cypher seems to be pretty decent because his trips cover a lot of choke points on the map. Time will tell if Killjoy is great or not on the map, but we haven't really been seeing her much so far, and that's pretty much going to do it for this map. Lastly, remember, if you want to improve that KDA, win more gunfights, and get the rank that you've always wanted, then be sure to check out skillcap.com. Link in the descriptions below. Breeze is pretty crazy as far as maps go. I don't hate it yet, and I encourage you all to give it a chance. It's a little overwhelming at first, but it's not nearly as crazy as it seems once you get a few games in on it. Ranked is always going to be a mess, however, for maps like this, I feel like. They just take far more communication to play than a map like Ascent or Bind, which is awesome for pro play, but for matchmaking, it can be a bit of a nightmare. Anyway, though, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel down below. And don't forget to answer our question of the day, which was, which agent do you think would make the best lifeguard? I don't know who would make the best, but I can tell you who would make the worst. Could you imagine Phoenix trying to save somebody in the water? Oh my god, that would be bad. Anyway though, as always, I'm the King Live, and we here at Skillcapped want to thank you all for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.